And Mariana, where does she differentiate herself from Obama then?
She's going to have a very, very tough time because even if she does go back to when she was senator, she's still going to have to answer to her voting record.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest stumbling points for any candidate at any given time is having to answer to your voting record.
Are we going to see a Jeb Bush, Jay Kramer, start with you. Are we going to see a Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton in 2016?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that you're going to come up with a Republican primary, and you're going to probably see something similar. What happened last time is you're going to probably see, I'll bet at least a dozen candidates that get up there and get fired up and want to take a shot at the Democratic Party, and then somehow we've got to filter that down to a few candidates and make it work.
Okay, my question is are you going to see Hillary versus Jeb Bush candidacy in 2016?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Why? On her end or on Jeb's end?
I think on Jeb's end, we've got an awful lot of good Republican candidates that are possible, and he's got to go through the process out there. He's got the Bush name behind him. I hate to say it, but I think the American politics out there are tired of the Bush name.
Mariana, he said, and we all know there's going to be half a dozen, maybe a dozen Republican candidates on the Republican side. What is not to believe that there may not be a half a dozen candidates on the Democratic side, Mariana?
Who are they going to bring? I mean, I haven't seen a viable answer.
That's the whole point. They don't have to be viable. They don't have to be viable.
Hey, look, short of actually recruiting somebody off the streets, which is basically what they did with Barack Obama when he ran in 2008. We've got Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, and I haven't heard too many murmurs anywhere else.
So, listen, I'll tell you right now, with any viability, she's exactly right. I mean, you saw people like Rick Santorum and other individuals that didn't have a prayer that were running in 2012. Hopefully they get another a Fox News gig, and they're going to do it again in 2016 so they can get another gig because they don't know how to make a buck unless they're doing something with government out there.
Say exactly. Well, and Santorum hasn't stopped campaigning.
You like that one, huh, Jay? Yeah.
He's still doing it to this day.
Yeah. I watch Huckabee play his bass guitar. I wish he'd stop doing that on the weekends. I don't even watch him on the weekends. But anyways, all right. Listen, the webcast is up ready to go, Mariana, for all your big followers out there. Mariana does a good job. Brian House just absolutely horrible. So we got it up and running right now. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail.com, eddeanradio@gmail.com. You want to watch us live on the air, it's eddeanradio.com, eddeanradio.com, facebook.com/eddeanradio, also on Twitter. When I come back from the break, if Hillary is the choice, Jay doesn't think it's going to be Jeb Bush. We're going to ask Mariana and Vince, if it ain't Jeb Bush, who is it? And if it is Jeb Bush, can he win with the Bush name? I don't think so. Back in a few moments. This is the Ed Dean Radio Show.
Ain't nothing wrong with this chemistry. Ain't nothing wrong with this place for me.
With an SRN News Business Brief, I'm Andrew Stewart. Couple an extended cold wave with a shortage of propane, and you've got a recipe for skyrocketing prices. In fact, 60% higher than 1 year ago. And Vermont's congressional delegation says it's time to act. Senators Bernie Sanders and Patrick Leahy, along with Congressman Peter Welch, are asking Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker to use her emergency powers to temporarily halt exports of propane. They say Pritzker has the power to act under an International Emergency Powers Act to crack down on exports in order to protect the domestic economy. SRN's Wally Hines. The Fed will require the largest foreign banks operating in the U.S. to hold higher levels of capital reserves to protect against potential loan losses. With business, I'm Andrew Stewart.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without big brothers, big sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college, Joe Thompson, not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
21 minutes after the top of the hour, Jay Kramer, Vince Jackson, Anna Mancuso here on the first hour of the Ed Dean Radio Show. We've got a lot to talk about. 2014 elections, a little bit of presidential 2016 elections. So Hillary, everybody thought she was the Vince. She was the, I mean, no pun intended. She was the top dog in 2008. Evidently, she got sideswiped by Barack Obama. I don't see that happening in 2016. But let's flip the side of the other coin here. Jeb Bush. Does Jeb Bush have a prayer becoming the nominee here?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I think it has a lot to do with the Bush name, to be honest with you. I don't think the American public are ready for another Bush, and I don't know when that might be, to be honest with you. Because you still have, to this day, you still have much of the Democratic Party still trying to blame everything on Bush to this day. And unfortunately, we do need the independent and Democrat vote, I think, to win the election, just because of turnout. But I think Bush would be a good president. I just don't think he
I like
shot.
Jeb. He was a good governor. But you say it's because of the Bush name. Anna, you don't buy into that, do you?
You know what? I think that he has a prayer because I'm telling you right now, if I went around and asked any of my Democrat friends, they'd be the first to tell you I'd want the Bush years back because we weren't suffering as a nation the way we are now.
I disagree with you. You don't want the last 2 years of W, and that's going to translate into Jeb. I mean, it's just a fact. It's not. I like Jeb. Jeb was a good governor. It ain't going to translate in other states. It ain't going to translate over the flyover states as well.
You're right about the last 2 years of W's years. I mean, they were horrible. But also too, when you're in his peak years, I mean, we had basically full employment. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, but the numbers, Jay Kramer, they still show that 40% of those still to this day blame Bush for the downfall in the economy as we speak.
Well, that was a great plan by the Democrats to brand failure onto the Bush name, and unfortunately, unless Jeb decides to change his last name, he's going to have to fight that as well as run a campaign.
I think optimists like Anna, who I adore, Anna, you got to leave the water cooler table here just a little bit. I mean, I love Jeb, but outside of Florida, I don't think Jeb's going to win some of these areas.
You know what? Again, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. I think he can carry it, especially after we've seen 8 failed years of President Obama and his liberal agenda. It's hurting Washington and it's hurting America.
So you don't. So the 35 to 40% of those that still blame W, you don't think that's going to translate in knocking Jeb down in 2016?
Absolutely not. And the reason is because if Jeb Bush actually comes and partners up with a Marco Rubio or another,
never going to happen. Go ahead.
She does actually. After seeing her thinking about it for a little bit, and
I love her thinking. Well, it's just not going to happen.
She makes a really good point, to be honest with you. And here's the difference. People voted in Barack Obama because they wanted something new and fresh.
That's right.
They thought this guy was going to be amazing.
That's right.
Everybody does know what they expect essentially with Bush. They may want to go back to that some type of security.
They are not going back to W. I can promise you this.
They know what they're going to get with him. That is the only thing.
Hold on, Mary. Go ahead. What's that, Anna?
This is a classic example of clear Pepsi in the market in the 90s. It failed because people didn't want their Pepsi to be clear because it was new and different, so they went back to the old thing. And I'm telling you right now, if Bush is on the ticket, America is going to say, yes, we want what we had before because Barack Obama is failing us, along with the rest of the lockstep liberals.
Yeah, but let me give you a new Pepsi slogan. It's a choice of a new generation. Right now it's a new generation as well, okay? So there we go. Scott Walker, I think, listen, if Mitt Romney were to run today, I don't know if Mitt would win again here, Jay Kramer. I like Jeb Bush, but it's got a lot to do with the name. I think they're all looking for some new fresh blood. I think the Republicans are looking for some new fresh blood. It could be John Kasich. It could be a Marco Rubio, one of my favorites, Scott Walker, Bobby Jindal. I mean, heck, I'd even bring back Rick Perry right now.
I think, well, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I know. Yeah, you better hurry up before Vince.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say governor. Any governor who's governor would be excellent.
Yeah, a governor had been in office for almost 10 years. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, you hinted on the Mitt Romney issue, and it's like, Florida is really willing and able to support a lot of our great Republican leaders, but a lot of them fail to come down here and excite the grassroots base. I'm sure Mitt Romney probably could have taken Florida. Florida didn't win by a very big margin,
Right.
but Mitt Romney didn't come through and excite the base like previous candidates had done. A lot of us, they're out there on the front lines in the grassroots. We're waiting for him to come by. He never came, and I hear the same story county by county by county.
You think Marco Rubio, Mariana, who would win in a
You're right there.
Again, this is my fantasy land. I might as well indulge Marianne involved. Marco Rubio would be my pick. Jeb and Marco will not run against each other. Both would not be on the same ticket. The Marco people are the same as the Jeb people. We all know that. Marianne, besides Jeb, who else would you go with that has a possibility that would have a chance to go against Hillary in 2016 on the Republican side?
Governor Chris Christie.
Listen, Christie was down there a few weeks ago with Rick Scott, and man, just raised a boatload of money. She says Christie, she may have a point.
I think it's gonna. You have to see what's playing out there in New Jersey right now. What's going on up there?
In a poll coming out of Michigan last Friday, we saw Chris Christie actually leading with 39, Clinton at 43. So that means Clinton was only up +4.
What about Paul Ryan?
I like Paul Ryan, but I don't think
Forget it. Paul Ryan, he's doing it. How about Paul Ryan here, Mariana?
No, I don't think so. I think he should put this one out.
Well,
sit it out. Nice.
I think what happens is that you're seeing all this controversy around Chris Christie.
Right.
I think the Democrats have already chosen their target.
But you want to know something? Follow me for a second. Everybody knows it's New Jersey politics. You can go to the Abscam days back to the 70s. You could go back with Jim DeFlorio. When there's always bad negative publicity due to political corruption, guess what state it normally is? It's New Jersey, all right?
Yeah.
So, I think people expect it. Having said that, Jay Kramer, if you wanted somebody who was willing to have the guts, of course I use a clean word there, to go one-on-one against Hillary Clinton, would it not be Chris Christie?
Oh, I think so. Chris Christie is an in-your-face type of politician, and I think that's why a lot of people love him, is that he's got this no-fear attitude of getting in your face and saying, we need to stand up and get some things done, and, hey,
Because
to the back of the bus.
Mariana, that is the talk right now, that who is going to have the guts, the bronze to go after one-on-one after Hillary Clinton. Otherwise, we're going to come across as anti-woman. I don't know Jeb's that guy. I tell you, I think Chris Christie would be that guy.
Yeah, I think so. I think Chris Christie actually has a really good chance as long as he can get ahead of this Bridgegate scandal, and I think he can. It's still early on. We still got about a year and a half before we really run into it. So
All right,
he's got a really good shot.
All right, let me throw out some names. I'll get let's say rapid fire. Vince, I'll start with you. I throw out the name Scott Walker. What do you think? Governor of Wisconsin.
I like him. I think he
Viable?
Viable, yeah.
Jay Kramer? Scott Walker.
Absolutely. Anybody that can win in a heavily liberal area and come out smiling and win the election, yes.
Yeah, he did a really good job, especially with that when he had to go through the election again. Yeah, it was.
Hey Vince, stop hitting my table, by the way, will you? All right, you're not preaching. All right, Mariana, how about you? What do you think? When I say Scott Walker, what do you say?
I think he's a wild card.
Why is he a wild card?
Because I think he would be a viable candidate, but I think there's going to be a few things that are going to have to actually move out of the way for him to get up front.
Okay, let me throw another name. John Kasich. I'll start with you, Jay Kramer. You shaking your head no. I agree with you. What do you say?
No.
Now, Mariana?
No.
Okay, let me see. What about Rick Perry? What do you say, Vince?
Yes, I think he's going to run.
Jay Kramer, Rick Perry. What do you say?
I wouldn't say so. He tried to run last time. He kind of ran a little short on presence.
What do you think, Mariana? A prayer or not a prayer?
My sources say no.
Wow, Mariana, do you have anybody you actually like besides Marco and/or Jeb?
I told you, I also like Chris Christie. I'll get behind him.
Okay, so there's three out of 20 that may be running. Anybody else who you like or on the borderline?
It depends on the day.
Wow. Wow. Spoken like a true politician.
I like Ted Cruz. I think he's coming down to do the Lincoln dinner here in West Palm. I think he has a shot, but again, the problem is that you have to get enough airtime and you have to be out in front, and you got to make sure you're a media darling. And we've got Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Chris Christie. Those three, they're always in the media.
You know why Ted Cruz isn't going to run Jay Kramer and why he won't be able to win? He's got too many rhinos, too many moderates that would throw him under the bus. Democrats wouldn't have to do it. The Republicans would do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Hey, a name we haven't mentioned, Rand Paul. You know, the problem with Rand Paul, Vince, is that Rand's got some great issues, but he's still got some of his father's old holdover associates out there, like the, well, I don't want to drop any names, like the 9/11 conspiracy, the Area 52 type of people, or 51, excuse me.
Yeah, if he ran, I don't think he has a shot. I do think he's running, but I don't think he has a shot. I don't think he's viable.
What do you say, Mariana? Not a prayer?
I think he could energize the young conservative base.
I would highly agree with that. He does have quite an appeal, and he does know how to target that market very effectively.
Who is Ted Cruz speaking at the Sarasota? Is it Republican Day dinner? Is it the Lincoln Day dinner, Mariana, where there's like 1,500 seats that are sold out?
Yeah, I think I was down here in West Palm. It's on Friday.
Yeah, I know. I was invited to come down, but I've got other priorities there. And by the way, Ben Carson's coming out there too, is he not?
Yes.
Hey, by the way, you guys need to run some. You guys need to get a good candidate down there for against Patrick Murphy. I'm not happy with the crop of candidates you guys got.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting race, huh?
Yeah, I think Patrick Murphy can win there. Jay,
we got to get a good candidate in there. There's no doubt.
No, Adam Hazard's not running, so you don't have any more good candidates.
Nice.
I mean, come on. We have Carl Domino. We've got Ellen Andel running, who's got the support of Alan West. It's going to be a tough race, and everything that I see is that it's going to be interesting for Patrick Murphy, and he's going to have a run for his money because everyone's connecting him to Nancy Pelosi, which is true.
Hey, if you wanted to ensure another Patrick Murphy re-election, run Connie Mack against him, Mariana.
You know, that's low, Ed. That's really
No, I'm just kidding. Mariana's a good. Nice. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. Listen, man. No, let me tell you something about this district. This is one of the top, maybe 4 or 5 seats, Jay Kramer. Not in the state, but in the country. Patrick Murphy has come across not as much as a liberal. He's been associated with Nancy Pelosi as far as environmental protection, which a lot of Republicans like down there. A lot of those rich Republicans that live on the beach down there and Democrats love their environmental protection down there. It's just a fact of life. I think Patrick Murphy's got a good chance of getting Shoe in re-election again.
Well, if he doesn't have any opposition, obviously he's going to get it back in there. I can tell you, I know our group here in Indian River County, we like to kind of stick our fingers in our neighbors' politics as well.
But that is not, Mariana, that is not a conservative district down there. I mean, for years, that district was represented by Mark Foley.
You're right, it wasn't. Alan West won it, and he won it because he was a Tea Party darling, and then he lost to Patrick Murphy. And the thing with Patrick Murphy is that he's always in lockstep with House Democrats voting on policy issues. And that's a problem for the folks there. The Republicans don't want that.
Politico came out last week and said he was in the top 10 that Democrats voted against Obama. So I mean, we'll have to see how that sticks there. Everything else. Susan McManus, university professor, University of South Florida, Vince Jackson came out and said, "Hey, here come the Libertarians in 2014. They could mess up a few elections. I know over the special election over in the West Coast in Pinellas County with Alex Sink and David Jolly, where it's about 38 Republicans compared to about 35% Democrats. A few of the rest are independents. The Libertarian, among some poll numbers, anywhere from 7 to 11%. I mean, they're all over the map. Vince, a Libertarian's going to mess it up for Republicans this year.
You always have that third-party candidate like that. It is usually that's what happens because they just do not have the following that you have with the two parties.
Marianne, how come we don't have more people like Ralph Nader types messing it up for the Democrats? Why is it always people from the Libertarian side messing up for Republicans to win a general election?
I think that's the million-dollar question. These third-party candidates jump in, they split the vote, and then they're trying to help the Republicans, but they wind up hurting us at the end of the day.
Is before we go to Jay Kramer, Mariana, is the third-party candidacy going to hurt David Jolly in the March 13th, March 12th election coming up here in a few weeks?
In the last poll that I saw that 43% of independents would actually lean towards David Jolly over Alex Sink.
All right, Alex Sink, who's doubling. Jay Kramer, this race here, for those audiences listening to other parts of the state, they're spending over about $4 million. I mean, everybody. I mean, there are troops, there are CIA agents actually involved in this race because we call them spooks. In other words, they're behind. You'll never see these people, right? And there are a lot of people here. It's going to be really interesting. Alex Sink has a chance of winning this race because it's her backyard. David Jolly should have a decent chance, but David Jolly has supported both sides. He's been a lobbyist. That's maybe why some of the Tea Party people may stay home. I'm not sure. They expect a very, very low voter turnout here, but Libertarians are known to mess up elections for Republicans out there. How do you guys address this issue? You're a state committee man.
Well, what we try to do is we try to get them involved in our primary process. You know, we want to take that energy that they got in their elections, and we want to have them expend
You're
it
saying,
in the primary
take the marbles
process.
home, jump in within our party and run within the Republican
If
side.
you've got a strong candidate, put them in the primary, let them win the primary, but let us take the election.
I've seen too
I
much
would
of that.
agree, I would agree with that. Yeah, I wish that's what the Libertarians would do. Honestly, is start running with the Republican Party, because I think there is as you can see, there is a large enough group, and a lot of these Republicans who do have an R next to their name do lean towards the Libertarian side on a lot of things. And I think if they were to come into the Republican Party, not only I think it would shape up the Republican Party somewhat, it would not harm us during the election.
I want to jump in. Go ahead, Jay.
But you know what? They're not going to do that, because what happens is that if the Libertarian Party has that 10% and you're running 40-40, Libertarian Party wants to play kingmaker.
Yes, right.
They don't want to give up that chip. They want the power. So if you have 10% and you play kingmaker, you got the power, buddy.
Yeah, but you want to know something here, Mariana? You follow a lot of this on your website, Political Hype. You cover these stories. If the race, which I don't think it's going to be a blowout between Rick Scott and Charlie Crist. I think it could be a matter of 1 to 2 points. What's that Libertarian's name? Wiley? What's the guy's name, Mariana?
I think it's I don't know.
Yeah, Wiley Coyote, whatever his name is. Anyway, so make a long story short, this guy could possibly get 1.5%. He could cause a disturbance here, not in the force, but he could cause a disturbance here among the election and give it over to Charlie Crist.
I really don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a very, very close race. I think that we're seeing that now. I think that, the governor's race is definitely going to go back to Governor Rick Scott. Everything he's done for Florida is just, it speaks. His record speaks for himself. While Crist has to run from his record, we saw him try and run in 2010. He ran from the Republican Party. He just keeps on running.
Well, if that's the case, why is his poll numbers up by 8 points? We'll discuss and debate that on the other side of the break. Scott versus Crist, and who's going to end up being, I don't know, is Crist still continue to lose the nomination maybe? I don't think so, but I think his support among Democrats will go down. We'll explain in a moment.
Lullabies and melodies reveal deep despair on lonely nights. He knows just how you feel.
According to the nonpartisan CBO, boosting the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $10.10 would increase the earnings for more than 16 million Americans. But it also says the move would cost as many as 500,000 jobs. That's a view not shared by White House spokesman Jay Carney.
There is not evidence that it has a significant impact on jobs.
Republicans have long argued that increasing the minimum wage would cost jobs by forcing companies to spend more on wages. Greg Clugston, SRN News, the White House.
Ryan told attendees at a GOP fundraiser in New Hampshire he won't consider a presidential run until Congress breaks at the end of the year. Ryan chairs the powerful House Budget Committee. He's often mentioned as a potential candidate, and he led a splintered GOP slate in a Washington Post ABC News poll released late last month.
The Labor Department says the Producer Price Index increased 0.2% last month. That followed a 0.1% rise in December. In the past year, producer prices have gone up just 1.2%, below the Federal Reserve's preferred target rate. Excluding the cost of food, energy, and markups by wholesalers and retailers, so-called core prices ticked up just 0.1%.
The results show that 4.3% of players from ages 5 to 14 were diagnosed with concussions. 34% of the players who did report injuries complained of bruises. Ligament sprains were the second most common injury, coming in at 16%. Researchers found that the behavior of coaches has a direct correlation to the number of injuries, and that the youngest athletes were the least likely to be injured. Bob Agnew, SRN News.
In an unexpected move this week, the popular social networking site has unveiled nearly 50 different terms people can use to identify their gender. It's an effort to appeal to the increasingly vocal segment of the population that wants to deny the gender they biologically are. Jeff Johnston of Focus on the Family says, quote, Facebook is entitled to manage its site as it sees fit, but here's the bottom line. It's impossible to deny the biological reality that humanity is divided into two halves, male and female. Michael Harrington, SRN News.
All right, more at the Ed Dean Radio Show. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail.com, eddeanradio@gmail. Watch us live on the air. You can go to eddeanradio.com, Twitter @eddeanradio, Facebook Facebook.com/EdDeanRadio. Political commentator Jay Kramer, Vice Mayor of the city of Vero Beach, here in the studios with us. Economics and real estate commentator Vince Jackson, and political analyst, and also her blog, politicalhype.com, Mariana Mancuso. So this whole race, Mariana believes that Rick Scott's going to win. By the way, Mariana, here's your prediction. I want you to give it to me right now. Rick Scott's going to win. What does he win by as of today?
4 points.
Oh, man. Wow. Vince Jackson, you willing to take this bet?
I think Rick Scott will win, but I don't think it's going to be by that much. I think it's going to be somewhere around 1.5, 2 points. I think it's going to be tight.
What do you say there, Jay Kramer?
I'm looking at his poll numbers, and trending. Scott has been gaining points. 10 points over the last 3 years.
And what
Chris
poll are you
losing.
reading?
I'm reading a conglomerate of several polls of about 20 or 30 of them. Quite frankly, the Republicans know the closets, that Christ has been in. So it's going to be a dirty race. That's all I can tell you.
Charlie Crist is no longer in the closet. He's been coming out of the cabinets as of lately. All right. So what do you say? She says 4%. I say it's going to be about 1 or 2%. What do you say, Jay Kramer?
I would say between 1 to 4%.
Really?
The
Based on
political, position.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, bitch. If Rick Scott wins it, is it because of what Rick Scott's done with the economy, or is it what Charlie Crist just keeps backpedaling on?
I think a lot has to do with Chris, but I do believe as we get closer to the election, more and more is going to come out with the economy here in Florida, because he has done a great job.
But why
is he just not a very good communicator?
Mariana, why is he up by 8 points in the polls right now over Rick Scott?
Because he's on a book tour.
He had 8 points before the book tour.
He's out there promoting his book. He's promoting being a Democrat now, and he's just being an opportunist, and he's leeching on to anything possible that's going to help him raise in the polls. But at the end of the day, he can't raise the money, so he's not going to be able to win the governorship again.
I love Mariana, but she's still back. You're still back in campaign mode, Mariana.
No, I'm just speaking the truth. That we know that Chris is a political opportunist.
He certainly is.
Zero credibility.
Listen, do you know what's going to be interesting about this, Jay Kramer, is the numbers by the PPP, the numbers by Gallup, the numbers by Quinnipiac. Christ's numbers among Democrats. Now, forget the Republicans or Rick Scott. Just follow me for a second. Forget the numbers among independents. The independents didn't come out and vote in 2012, so I'm not relying on them as of right now. But Charlie Christ's numbers among the Quinnipiac poll 6 months ago was among Democrats, 75%. They're down in the mid-50s right now. That is something that should worry Charlie Crist, because he may win the primary, but do they come out and vote for him in the general election?
Absolutely. Why in the world would the Democrats ever trust Charlie Crist? He's flip-flopped all over the place. The Republicans know everything about this guy. He's an open target. The only reason he's up in the polls is because Governor Scott has actually got a job and is doing something, and Crist has got nothing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course, he's sitting there hanging out with Morgan & Morgan. He's there for the people and say, hey, if you want to drop in anytime, you got to play that.
I didn't leave the Republican Party. It left me.
I'd like to know, what area was it that he decided to leave the Republican Party? Was it based, on stimulus, which the Republicans gave him? Was it based on the tax increases that the Florida Republicans gave him? Was it based on spending that the Florida Republicans gave him? What was it here? Charlie Crist can sit here and say, hey, excuse me, the party's over. I'm not hyped about it anymore. But the only person that's changed, Mariana, is Charlie Crist.
Absolutely. What happened is that we see that in Charlie Crist as the governor, and he was just failing Florida. We had an unemployment that tripled. It was the second largest in the country. Over 830,000 jobs have been lost. The property values are going down. Bankruptcies are going up. Charlie Crist wanted to run from that record, so he switched sides.
All right, so let me. Okay,
now
now you're great at spin, like I am. So I'm going to throw this one at Mariana. If you can blame Charlie Crist, then why shouldn't the Republican state house and the Republican-led Senate be thrown in as well? Because when you had that high unemployment, they ran both chambers and still run the both chambers in the state house and state Senate here in Florida.
Like Governor Scott says, the buck stops with him, and he takes full responsibility.
I like this. She's awesome.
Mariana, I love you. Give me another one. You just, Jay Kramer, hire her, dude. She is awesome. I thought I was a great spin master. She's even better than me.
I like her, yeah.
Well,
the buck stops there. That is so good. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
We're up here at the RPOF, and we're dealing with the Crist mess. Hey, Democrats are going to learn this one the hard way.
Right.
But the reason that Charlie Crist had to leave the Republican Party is because the Republican Party discovered who he really was, and there was no way we were going to stand behind that kind of guy.
Listen, they knew what this guy was all about when he ran for governor against Tom Gallagher. They just swallowed the pill, and Gallagher wasn't that great,
Watch your language there.
No, you know what I'm talking about. That's nothing wrong there. But, I mean, the bottom – listen, this is the beauty about – okay, Mariana would agree with me, all right? The beauty about this is – or the irony is you usually define the man based on the issues. In other words, I've always say – I mean, don't vote for the guy. You vote for his viewpoint on the issues. So, but when it comes to Chris here, Vince – it's not so much his issues because he's this week, then he's on the same issue on another position next week on the same issue. You got to look at the man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's all over the board. You have no idea what he's going to say from one day to the next. Just all depends on, I don't know if he wakes up on the left or right side of the bed or sticks his finger in the air and says, "Oh, well, I think I'll."
Scenario. Let me interrupt for a second, Governor, for a second. Do you have any regrets about endorsing the economic stimulus package?
Well, I didn't endorse it. I didn't even have a vote on the darn thing, but I understood that it was going to pass, and I wanted to be able to utilize it for the benefit of my fellow Floridians.
Okay, that was Chris. Says he didn't have a vote on the darn thing. He did not endorse it. Well, where is it at? Oh, this is what. Well, he said actually. This is what he said just recently. Where was this at? He said that this is on. Well, anyways, never mind. I'll get to that in a moment. Here is the latest ad right here that they're running against with Charlie Crist. And what the Chris says about the issues. For example, this is what he said about Obama. It's a no-brainer here.
If you want to keep taxes low on the middle class, you got to vote for President Obama. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer.
You believe that type of nonsense, Vince? I mean, this guy is the gift that keeps on giving. If this guy becomes governor, let me tell you something, man. Forget national radio. I will stay in Florida and get you doing state radio, man, because this guy is the gift that just keeps on giving. It would be a great 4 years for the Ed Dean Radio Show.
It would be a lot of fun, that's for sure. You'd have a lot to talk about. I mean, and also too, while the campaign starts heating up as we get closer to the actual election, playing those kinds of things right there are just going to be, I would think, harmful to his campaign because most Floridians are not happy with the Obama administration, and he's just tied himself to that. So, and of course, the rest of his history as well is no good for him. But
well, here's what he said. Remember how he said about the stimulus, how he didn't endorse it? And, of course, he just came out this recently on Morning Joe and said this.
To the podium and said a few words and said that we need to support the president, the Recovery Act, the stimulus, as it's commonly known, because it's the right thing to do. I mean, I was governor at the time.
There we go. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Jay, will you stop looking at pictures hanging out with me and Charlie Crist, okay? They don't exist. Those are Photoshop, Jay, all right? No, I was
Thank God for radio, right?
Yeah, remember I was in Tallahassee about 3 weeks ago when I go see my girl Pam Bondi and Charlie Crist comes walking by, hey, there's Ed Dean, and I'm like, well, so I'm like, hey, why not? I mean, heck, I'd get my picture taken Barack Obama if he wanted it. And so it was great, and Charlie thinks he can use that for gain. I put it on Facebook just to mess with some of my friends like Jay, and I literally get raked over the coals by a lot of listeners when I post it on Facebook. Mariana.
Did he take you out to dinner afterwards?
No, but the offer was there.
Okay.
I just don't want to share it with Stephen Shale and all the rest of these guys out there. So, but anyways, what issue, Mariana? Let me go with you. There were many that Charlie Crist has flip-flopped on. Give me, come on, you're the spin master. I'm loving it. Give me 2 or 3 that will devastate Crist in this upcoming election.
Well, the stimulus bill right there, he was, as the Republican governor, he was supporting a failed liberal policy in Florida that is hurting Floridians. Over 300,000 people in Florida have lost their health care under Obamacare, and he's out there crusading for it. He's a lockstep liberal, and he's going to say whatever needs to be said to win the Democrat vote. And unfortunately, he's going to have to convince the Democrats he's one of them because he's not going to be able to maintain that base.
Okay, question. Jay Kramer, I'm looking at you. Crist has to get to garner the support of the Democrats in a Democratic primary. Does he move to the center in the general election?
That's a good question. I mean, he's got to get through the Democratic primary, and he's got to get past the hardcore Democrats, which are going to question him. But I think he could probably do it.
Where does he go, Vince? Does he move to the middle or stay at the left?
He would have to run to the middle if he wanted to try to win the general, because he's going to have to. Of course, he needs to win the primary, and he's going to have to go as far as left.
But Mariana will tell you, as a spin master, which she is, she will tell you. And I say it as a compliment, by the way. Mariana will tell you, hey, listen. Then the Republicans going to gear up all these ads that he ran to the left of Nan Rich or try to compete with Nan Rich, as liberal she is, a progressive out there, and use these ads against him when he runs in the general election. Mariana.
Ed Dean, he can run to the middle. He can stay on the left. He can do whatever he wants, but he cannot run from his record. and his record is ruining Florida. It ruined Florida in 2010, and to let him back in the governorship is just going to ruin Florida even further.
But you want to know something?
Governor Rick Scott's made.
Okay, let me ask you this, Mariana. If Charlie Crist would have run for re-election in 2010 for governor, would he have won? Yes or no?
No.
Oh, he would have won. I think so. Who was going to run against? A governor, not Senate, but governor.
No, because if you look at his record, bankruptcy was up in Florida, and Florida was suffering deeply under the Governor Crist.
The Republicans still would have supported him.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't think so either.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
Wait.
Now, before the election, when
when
he left before the election, he already made his
That's
decision.
exactly right. But I said if he would have run for governor, would he have won re-election? I say yes. The Republican Party would have supported him because remember, when he was running, and even when Marco announced, he was still getting endorsements from state-run legislators.
He would have acted completely different if he was running for governor as a Republican. He knew ahead of time that he was going to have to run as a Democrat.
Yeah, but if you knew he was a moderate all the time, why would you allow him to run as a Republican then?
Well, at the time, he played the game pretty well.
Well, the Republican Party would have played along with him then.
Well, that's true, but he made the choice. He went out there on stage and started hugging Obama, and that lit up the conservatives pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the key things that we cannot forget is that in a midterm election, it is extremely hard to turn out the base when you have an opposing party in the White House who has a low approval rating.
That's what medical marijuana is for.
It is very difficult to energize the base.
Here's an ad. You ready for this one?
On the vote.
Listen to this ad. Came out against Charlie Crist back in 2010.
As conservative as you can get. I'm a Jeb Bush Republican. President Bush. He is a leader of courage and conviction. I was impressed at Governor Palin being picked. I watched her speech today. I was very impressed.
I'd like to get your opinion on whether we should be drilling off the Panhandle of Florida.
I think it's something we ought to explore. And I'm a pro-life, pro-gun, anti-tax Republican. I think it's important for people to understand who the true conservative is in this race, and it's Charlie Crist.
That was paid for by the Florida Democrats. How about that? That was paid for by the Florida Democratic Party in 2010. I mean, you don't even have to write the script here, man. Just let him talk, man.
We can save the production costs. We'll just use those ads.
Exactly. No, it's like, hey, Charlie, what, you need another 10 foot of the rope? Go ahead. 5 minutes later, Charlie, here's another 5 foot of the rope. Keep doing it, man. I mean, you've heard the saying, never kill your opponent within the middle committing suicide. There it is. But unfortunately, I don't know. He's just maybe wounded himself a little bit. But you want to know something? I don't think there's going to be high voter turnout for both of these guys. I think Charlie will eat Rick Scott up in a gubernatorial debate, and both these they're going to. Well, Rick Scott puts me to sleep. Charlie, forget. I mean, it's just funny watching Charlie flip flop on his positions. But after 1 or 2 times, it's no longer funny, Vince.
No. When it comes to the debate, though, I don't know. I don't think Chris is going to run all over Scott. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I really don't because of Chris's record and what the job that Scott has done. There's a lot of solid ground that Scott can stand on when he goes into that debate.
But Jay, seriously, I mean, if the numbers are so much better for the state of Florida, Rick Scott should not be running in a poll 8 points behind a failed governor as of now.
No, he should.
I mean, head and head would have at least become somewhat credible.
But interestingly, when they go to the debate, I wouldn't sell Scott short. Crist is going to be slick. He's going to come across as a nice, smooth politician. But Governor Scott, he's an ex-attorney. He knows the facts. He knows what counts. The question is do you want a politician or do you want somebody?
He's a horrible debater. Charlie Crist is going to eat him up, but Rick Scott may be able to eat him up in facts. Listen, I tell you what's going to push Rick Scott over. You repeal that car registration where they double the rates on car registration and driver's licenses. Guess what? Rick Scott will win, not by much. I think that will push Rick Scott over the finish line.
Well, I can tell you locally, it hasn't been a real popular bill.
Yeah, and by the way, Marianne, it was the Republicans that also helped push that bill back in 2009 as well, which is sad to say.
I think there's a lot going on right now in our state house that's going to pass. That's going to, I think, help Scott, honestly. When it comes to
what?
On the real estate side right now, one of the things being talked about is taxes on commercial leases.
Okay, that's
a big deal. No, you're talking about huge companies spending a lot of money, and we're the only state in the country right now that taxes
unfortunately doesn't translate into their employees voting for Governor Rick Scott.
Well, it's what it is going to do, though. It is going to drive more business here, and that's going to help Scott out on that.
Hey, Mariana, what about this talk of the Obama playbook has now been wide open here? The Obama people are going to be campaigning with Charlie Crist. You might even see Hillary Clinton. I mean, are they going to feel pumped? I mean, Rick Scott is #1 to defeat here in this country. I think everybody and their brother's going to be down here to make sure that Rick Scott is defeated. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a lot of grassroots on both sides?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And that's why we see so much grassroots money being poured into the Congressional District 13 race, because that's going to be the litmus test for us in 2014.
So what if Alex Sink wins that race? How are you going to spin it?
Well, she's not going to it, so we're not going to have a problem.
Oh, she is great. Where were you doing the, you know what, if you know what, they should have made you the top dog for Connie Mack. I think Mack probably would have won.
Well, you know what, Ed? I can't speak to that. I can tell you that as a social media game for Connie Mack, we would have won on that front. Absolutely.
You know what? You want to know something? I don't make many excuses for individuals, but you're dead on. I think if Mitt Romney had a better social media, I agree with. Listen, the Democrats are awesome at social media and better grassroots, and I think Marianne. I don't think that would have been the main, but I think it would have been a top tier reason. I think she's exactly right. You would have put a social media out there. I think Romney would have done better. So would Connie Mack.
Oh, yeah. I would agree. And that was the thing with Romney, though. I mean, he just didn't have any of that going on with the grassroots.
They had no grassroots going on.
Yeah, not at all. So, and that killed him on the election. If he would have had some grassroots going, like you said, social media and things like that, I think he could have won.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if Marianne could have been in charge of the social media like she is promoting herself coming on my radio show, Connie Mack would have won. Trust me. All right. Anna Mancuso, I'm glad you came on today. Marianne, I got to have you on more often, maybe twice a week now.
Yeah, sure. Bring it on, Ed.
Just for Def Comedy Jam. That's why. All right. Thank you so much, Marianne. You can go to her website, politicalhype.com, politicalhype.com. I like her, man. She's funny.
Yeah, she's sharp.
She is sharp. I mean, she comes from the same mold of the Ed Dean textbook style out there. I love it. All right, when we come back from the break, the